Hi, I'm Heather Hocker, President and CEO of the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra, and this is Clef Notes. I'm excited to introduce you to our musicians, guest artists, community members, and patrons who for 80 years have developed a love of music through your Lubbock Symphony here on the South Plains. On today's episode, I'm visiting with Stacy Keith, Director of Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation. Stacy, thank you so much for joining me on Cliff Notes.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Stacy and I have been friends for a really long time, and we've watched each other's journeys probably the last 15, 16 years. So it's fun to have you on the show.
Thanks.
Stacy, share the history of the Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation, and also thinking back, and as I was preparing for today's episode, you actually started this job when COVID, the shutdown first happened. So talk about that and where we are today.
Okay. Well, the Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation was started in April of 2020. Officially, it was April 1st, which was my first day of work. And I kind of joke with my CEO and board members that I knew that was not a great day to start a new job. And sure enough, we went right into the shutdown. But let me back up before we get too much into that. Cultural Arts Foundation was really the vision of the city of Lubbock, Market Lubbock, and our friends at the CH Foundation to really be able to have a organization that could manage the music-friendly, film-friendly, and now digital media-friendly certifications for the city of Lubbock. And they also really wanted kind of a centralized arts organization that could help with calendaring, events, have a website that could be a resource for other arts organizations as they were planning events and social events and just kind of a hub. And so that's really what we are. So I always say we're everybody's cheerleader. But yes, as you said, we started in 2020, right as the shutdown was happening. It was a really difficult time, particularly for our music industry, our live music venues. And of course, our musicians were just really up a creek. It was not a good time. And so we rallied during those months to work on our music-friendly certification with the Texas Music Office to get that going for Lubbock. We wanted to give them a light during that really dark period, something to look forward to coming out of that period. And so we had that in a couple of months. We really fast-tracked that through. And we're so grateful for the music office for working with us. Brendan Anthony was the director at the time, and my friend Chip Adams, who's now the director, had just started in February. So we always say we've kind of grown up together. But it was a really unique time. And at the time, Mayor Dan Pope was kind of at the helm, and he did a great job. We did a fun virtual ceremony and did it all virtually, had all our meetings virtually. Everything was over Zoom. And so that was the spark that started this office.
Well, and not just did you work on the music friendly, but you jumped right into film friendly as well. And again, that has been most significant for Lubbock and the surrounding area, because I know you field calls all the time from various producers wanting to be here, film here, and all that. You want to touch on that a second?
I do. You know, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that there was much of a film industry here in Lubbock, but we really do have one. And we started a public Facebook group a couple of years ago, and it's called Filmmakers of Lubbock. Anybody can join. There are over 700 people in that Facebook group. There is a large population here who not only has an interest in film, but they're doing small productions. They're doing some feature work. They're doing great documentary work. We have a lot of visiting productions. There's one coming into town that's working with the NFL and Texas Tech on some things. So some really cool things. Lots of ghost hunters, which is a lot of fun. I love those shows. And so every level of ghost hunter that wants to go out and visit our cemeteries, our abandoned buildings, spooky houses. So it's been really fun to get that moving. And I think, I always say music our music community is so close knit. And I always say I was the new girl with our musicians because they have such interconnectivity. But with film, it's very different. They're very siloed. And so I think our office has given them kind of a tangible way to connect. And so that's been really special. But yes, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun industry.
Well, and not just film, but also the TV shows. I think every now and then I turn on HGTV and, we're seeing Lubbock, Texas featured. So our best kept secret is getting out there as we continue to grow and prosper here in Lubbock. We talk a lot about growth, and I would love to hear your vision for the Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation for the next 10 years. It's been rapid growth for the last 6. You're housed in Lida. Where do we go? We've had lots of conversation at the symphony as how do we continue to grow our audience? We've seen kind of our season tickets plateau at about 1,200 to 1,400 attendees per Masterworks concert. We have a beautiful hall that seats 2,200. The maestro always says, I want butts in the seats. He wants to perform every concert to a sold out crowd. So talk about that the next 10 years and the growth.
I think we're in a really unique time in both film, in all of our arts. And I think you touched on it earlier. I think we're our own best kept secret sometimes. I think it's that kind, humble West Texas spirit. And sometimes we don't brag on ourselves quite as much as we should. I think in the next 10 years, I think we have got some filmmakers and particularly right now, there is a group of young emerging musicians who I think are really going to take some things by storm. We've got Clement Hall. They're doing great things. They've just released their first album. I think they are definitely a rising star. They're a great group of guys. We've got a lot of independent solo artists that are also, we started 6 years ago seeing them as students at SPC or even in high school, and you see them move on, like Hadley Joe is doing great things. She's recording in Nashville, just co-wrote a song that Vince Gill is going to be performing. You've got the great Blackwater Draw that came out of the Caldwell tradition. They're also recording in Nashville. But, the thing about it is even when they move on, they don't forget Lubbock. I think Lubbock is really special that way, like Flatland Cavalry is so beholden to Lubbock for getting their start. I think we're going to continue to see that growth on the commercial music side. And I think on the film side, the same thing. We've got a lot of great independents that are working hard on some, really important documentary work and feature films that I think we're going to start to see more and more. We're nestled in. I always say we're kind of nestled in with LEDA, which is the Lubbock Economic Development Alliance, Market Lubbock, Visit Lubbock, and Lubbock Sports. And we are in there for a very good reason because our CEO, John Osborne, on the LEDA side, and he also is the CEO of Visit Lubbock, really understands what that arts and culture industry brings to a community. We want businesses to come here and industries to come here, but they got to have fun stuff to do. They've got to have the symphony to go to. They've got to have a First Friday. They've got to have moonlight musicals and fun things for their kids. And there are, dozens and dozens of other great nonprofits and arts organizations and for-profit venues and galleries that are doing great things. And so, I really think over the next 10 years, I think we're just going to kind of continue to see growth and respond to that. Our organization's always been really organic, and we do listening sessions to really hear what our constituents want us to do. And I think that's been part of our success, is trying to really listen to them and respond.
Absolutely. Well, and, we talk about the growth of Lubbock and Lubbock as we're recruiting physicians and professors, and what does that look like? And, the number one response we always hear is, do you have a symphony? And that's, 80 years old, our symphony this year. And it's exciting. They're fabulous. Our musicians, we have anywhere from 80 to 120 paid musicians on the stage. And much of what Stacy has done through the years is really educating those musicians on contracts and gigs. And we implement that at the symphony. And I love even our concert before the concert. Stacy is talking about, we had Eli Coleman, who is a shallow water boy who went to Juilliard with a theater background and has now signed a 3-record recording deal in Nashville. So, it's fun because we've watched, I say these kids, we've watched this younger generation grow up and now doing great things. Stacy, you've got an advisory committee that works with the Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation. Who else are you collaborating with? And talk a little bit about that advisory committee. And it's fun to sit in on, I'm new on the job. I think now I've been here 120 days-ish. Talk about how that works.
We do. We have 2 key advisory committees. LCAF has a board of directors that does managerial oversight of the organization, like any nonprofit does. But we have 2 advisory committees. We have one for music and one for film. And those groups really bring that industry insight and help. I always say they just tell me what to do. I'm really good at organizing things. I just need help knowing that organization. And that's part of, that listening and really trying to respond to what those needs are. But I think that those are really key for our success and for our programs.
Well, and I know we've talked a lot about growing our attendance for all musicians and all visual artists, not just the symphony, but for our local artists too. We're seeing growth in Lubbock. You and I talked about there used to be a day when we would say in Lubbock there was nothing to do. Well, now we talked about there's so much to do, and you've got 3 different things to choose from. And how do you choose? And of course, everyone's buying for the same dollar. But how do we encourage those that may not know what great things are going on in Lubbock? What are some of the resources that they can tap into to get engaged and plugged in?
Well, I think a couple of things. We do a lot of events where everyone is welcome. We do Arts After Hours events, and we also do a filmmakers meetup event. Those are once a month, and those are lots of fun. That's a great way just to kind of get the one-on-one connection. I also, of course, would refer everybody to a couple of websites that are really valuable. Visit Lubbock.org. Visit Lubbock has a wonderful website. It is not just for tourism. It is for everybody. And it has everything from sports events to concerts to things at live music venues like the Blue Light, Cooks, and Jake's. We also, of course, we have a website as well that's just limited to arts and culture. But then our friends at the Lubbock Arts Alliance have a great calendar that they do every week. You can sign up for their newsletter, get it in your mailbox, in your email box every week, and they'll tell you exactly what's going on in the cultural district. So I think it's looking. I think it's taking the initiative to get out there and find what is there for you and your family to do.
Thanks for that. I know even thinking forward for Thanksgiving weekend this year, Tech will, for the first time in I don't know how many years, 80 years. It's some crazy number. They'll actually be playing football here in Lubbock. So again, people are going to be looking to fill their weekend, not just with Texas Tech football, which we love, but also maybe some live music. So that will be fun to see. Stacy, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always fun to catch up and hear what's going on with the Lubbock Cultural Arts Foundation. For current season ticket subscribers, you can now renew your tickets by calling the box office at 806-762-1688. All current subscribers should now have their season ticket renewal package delivered in the mail, and we would ask you to return this to the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra office by May 14th to keep your current seats. I do want to remind our listeners to make plans to join us for Masterworks 5, Celebrate America, the 1812 Overture Hocker, and more on Saturday, May the 23rd at 7:30 p.m. at the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts and Sciences. You can find the Lubbock Symphony Orchestra on social media, and to purchase tickets, visit our website at lubbocksymphony.org and be sure to download the Classical 105.7 app so you never miss an episode of Cliff Notes. Make it a great day. Thanks.